Hey everybody, thanks. Here we go. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. We're really excited for tonight's class. So for all of you that have not been with us before, we have got Stephen in the studio and he will be on the chat also, and he'll be able to answer any questions that you guys have or relay them back to me, or just so we can interact and make sure that you guys have the best class possible. So with that said, so tonight we're doing, normally we do everything more painterly, using acrylic, using folk art, using, brushes and tools. And today we wanted to try something different. I hope you guys like it. We have relaunched a product called Gallery Glass. And Gallery Glass, for those of you that haven't maybe tried it, it's incredible, but it is a paint that allows you to transform any glass or plastic surface into something that looks like traditional stained glass. And so tonight we wanted to try something that was almost like the blown glass art that is kind of trending right now. We're not using lead lines, which again, those of you that are familiar with gallery glass, traditional gallery glasses, you create a lead pattern, you let that dry, and then you fill it with color. So it looks just like traditional stained glass. So we are trying to do something fun and unique. The goal is always just to educate and just to give you guys as many creative ideas as possible. And so we wanted to do kind of that fused glass mosaic look that is so popular, but of course takes cutting glass and fusing glass and heating the glass up and mosaicing it together and putting it in a kiln to fire it and melt it all together. We wanted to get that really hard to achieve craft with a paint. So we are doing that with gallery glass. So I hope you guys can see. A problem with gallery glass always is you don't get the full effect of how beautiful it is. I wonder if I do it on the overhead. Let me see if, so gallery glass, yeah, you can kind of tell. You still can't tell how beautiful it is unless sunlight is coming through it. But you can see that it is completely translucent. So you can see, oh, I'm not doing a good job showing you, but like you guys can see that light will come through it. The colors are still bright and vibrant, and you get just such a unique look that really you can only get with gallery glass. So with that said, that is the project that we will be creating tonight. So first thing I want to do is go over the supplies that you guys are going to need. So you're going to need gallery glass paint, and the colors that I suggested, which I always tell everybody, if you don't like yellow and you want an orange flower, or you don't like the red and you wanted to use purple instead, learn the techniques by following along, but have fun with the colors. But the colors that we're going to use to create what you guys see is ruby red, amber, sunny yellow, two blues, a turquoise and an aqua. And if you only have one, that's okay. But it's fun to show how the colors complement each other. Kelly green. And these both look like white, but what they are is one is white, bright white, and one is crystal clear. And if you're new to gallery glass, crystal clear, weirdly, is my all-time favorite gallery glass paint, because let's see if I can show you guys. It'll be hard to show you guys, but clear dries exactly that. It dries clear, but what you can do with it that is so unique is you can create all of this texture. Let me see if the light catches it. See all that texture on there? All the gallery glass does that, but the clear, using a different technique, actually does it the best. So that's why it looks like we have two white. We have a white and then we have a crystal clear. So then I requested you guys have a piece of paper and a pencil because we did not provide a pattern. I always like to kind of teach you guys how to create your own pattern. And then your frame. And all this is a floating frame that has two pieces of glass. So the only thing that you want to make sure that you have as a surface is two pieces of glass, because it's almost like we're base coating and doing some elements on the first piece. And then we're doing the majority of the work on another piece. And then the neat thing about the project when it's done is when we put the two together, you kind of get a dimensional fused glass project. You can kind of see it on there, but you get the dimension by the divide in the glass once you put it back in the frame. And then you just get a really unique look when the sunlight comes through that. All right, guys. Stephen, do we have any questions already or should we get started?
No questions so far. I think we're ready to get going if you are.
Okay, I'm ready then. All right, guys. So what I like to do is using a scratch piece of paper and your pencil. If you want to, just kind of for a guide, you can place just one piece of glass on your paper and just outline it so you know exactly the area that you're going to be. Oops, it's so hard to pick up glass on the table. So you know the area that you're going to be working on. All righty, so I'm going to scoot this into the frame. And what I like to tell people, so if the reason we don't always give a pattern is because sometimes when you're working with a pattern, it becomes less about learning techniques and being kind of your own artist, and it's more about following the lines exactly. And so when we don't have to, that's the reason we try not to give you guys a pattern, so that you can have more fun, you can be more creative, and you can just really focus on the techniques, not almost like color book painting. All right, so what I always say is when you're looking at a design, kind of break everything down into really basic shapes. So like your vase, for example, is a rectangle. Your flowers are not a circle, but the placement on your canvas is a circle. So that daisy would represent a circle, that daisy would represent a circle, and just kind of break it down into individual shapes. That will make it not intimidating that you have to know how to draw, but it'll allow you to just place your design. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of place the ground or the bottom of the table where I'm going to set my base. And then I am going to do a rectangle. If you want to do an oval, if you want to do a really unique base shape, go for it. But I'm going to do just kind of a loose rectangle. And don't worry about where the pattern overlaps. Again, we are using this as a guide. We're not doing paint by numbers.
Okay, Kirsten, while you're doing
Yep.
that, I don't want to slow you down, but I have a couple questions for you.
Perfect.
Okay, so if you don't have all the gallery glass colors, can you substitute it for folk art multi-surface?
Oh, great question. Yeah, I don't see why not. You'd have to have obviously a few little paintbrushes. We could even, or you could even still do the 2-layered look. So when we base coat maybe our vase, some things would be a little bit different, but yes, you totally could. Like you'd have to base coat your vase on the back, but then you'd have to add your stems on the top so they overlaid. But yeah, you absolutely could. We do a lot of glass painting with multi-surface, and that would be fabulous, but very different.
And then the other question is, can you use gallery glass paint on clear acrylic plastic sheets?
So yes, you can. Gallery glass paint is perfect for glass, obviously, and perfect for plexiglass, upcycled plastic, whether it be you're making something unique out of a water bottle or out of a folder. So yes, absolutely. The only difference, which is not a bad one for this particular project, is gallery glass is completely removable off of glass. Once it's dry, if you did it in your home window or your front door, it can be on there for 10 years and be dry and wonderful. And when you want to remove it, it's completely removable. The only thing about plastic is it's on there to stay. But with a project like that, that would not be an issue.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great questions. Okay. So I drew the, I guess the tabletop where my vase will sit. I drew my vase, and now I'm going to look at each flower almost as like an oval. So I'm not drawing the details. I'm just placing them on the canvas. So that little guy sits kind of close to the vase. This little guy kind of sits up and over, and he's a little bit taller. So a little bit taller oval. This little white daisy down at the bottom is below the vase. You can see he's below the top of the vase. So maybe that's his center. And he kind of sits, kind of looking out that way. So he's leaning a little bit that way. And then this little daisy on the top sits in the far corner, and it's maybe the smallest. And I'm letting it bump right up to the edge. So that places it. And that's always the hardest part, is placing your flowers so they're not in a row or they're not exact. And then what you can do is just sketch. Maybe sketch a smaller circle that kind of represents the centers. If you want to go in and do details that there's going to be dots, you can, but I don't think you at all need that kind of detail. And then if you want to do a few petals just to get the feel for it and know that you really like the composition, you could just go in there and just really sketch really loosely, knowing that we are not going to color book paint and fill those in exactly. But you can kind of see this one I'm doing straight on. This one I'm kind of letting look that way. So the petals on this side will be a little bit smaller just because of the angle. And then as I'm getting to this side, the petals will be a little bit larger. But again, I'm just placing them on there more for confidence than for an exact pattern. I'm going to do the same thing up here. I kind of want that flower to feel like it's looking that way. And I love when a design goes off the edge. So remember, this is where my glass is. I love when a design kind of falls off, or an element of your design kind of falls off the edge of your canvas or your glass. You don't have to do that, but I think it's a really good look. And then this little one is kind of going that way. So I just want to make the petals on this side a little bit smaller, and then they kind of get more consistent and larger on this side. But you can see it's very loose. It's just going to be a guide for creating this fused glass feel. So once you've got your flowers, you want to get to connect them to the vase. So you know this guy's leaning way over, so you don't want to draw a stem, like that. That wouldn't be the natural way that the flower would grow. He would have started in the vase and just drooped down. So his little stem would have a bigger arch. And then this little one would maybe come in like that. And this little one would come in like that. And this one up here is kind of leaning that way. So I'm just going to envision that he kind of came in like that. So you've got your flowers, your vase, your stem, your tabletop. And then I'm going to go in and add some leaves. So I'm going to have one that kind of comes out of the vase. I'm going to have one that kind of hangs off this droopy stem. And you can see, like, if I mess up, I'm not erasing. I'm not making this perfect, because once we get started with the fun stuff, we're just using it as a guide. All right. And then I love to fill in areas of a floral painting with a really cute, almost like a wildflower pattern. And that's these cute little red flowers that you see. So I see a gap here. I know I'm going to want some there. I kind of see a little open space here. And then because you never do things in twos, you try when you're doing a floral composition, you always try to do things in odds. Not everything has to be in odd numbers, but when you've got an element that's tying everything together, you kind of want to do that in odd numbers. So I'm going to do 3 groups of the red. So I know I'm going to do it there. And all I'm going to do is kind of have a really soft stem. And I'm not even going to draw all the details. I'm going to draw maybe 3 or 4 of the red flowers, knowing that all those little dots and details I can go back and add with the paint. 1 or 2 little leaves. So that places my red flowers. I'm going to do the same thing up here, knowing he's going to kind of be coming that way and kind of going a little bit to the left. And I'm going to place some of those little red flowers, but they're just nothing more than circles. And then a few leaves coming off of that. And once you start painting, if it's too much or if you want more, you'll just skip it. You don't have to go and alter your pattern. You'll know it once we get started on the glass. And then in this little area, just to get some red color over there, I'm gonna just do 1, 2, 3 little circles and a little leaf just to represent that wildflower. So that is a pretty odd pattern, but the placement is what you want. You want to feel the vibe of your composition. You want to know it's sitting on a vase on a tabletop, and you just want to feel good about that. You don't want to overanalyze the size of each petal. Kind of easy to make a pattern when you look at it that way, I hope. Okay, any questions about creating the pattern?
I don't think so. I answered one in the chat. So I think we are good to go.
Good job. Okay, so then here we go. Okay, so we say this with everything, but it's especially true with gallery glass. Gallery glass in this look, like the look that we're doing is unique and it's creative, and nobody's painting is going to look exactly like the others. And that is a good thing. I'm going to keep this one in there just so that you guys can kind of use it as a reference. So if you do a petal and it's not perfect or it's not exactly like mine, don't redo it. Let it dry. That's one of the unique things about gallery glass. And because we're doing it on glass, one of the great things about gallery glass, which I'm not going to do too much of it, but like this is permanent. We did this weeks ago so that we could get it to you guys and get it up online. So this is dry. This will stay beautiful forever. But if you don't want it anymore and you want to redo your surface, all you have to do, you guys, is start with a little X-Acto knife. I shouldn't have done white. Here, I'll do the green. And look at that. That pulls up and off. And if you don't like your project, when you wake up in the morning, you can scrape it off of that glass and do it again and again and again until it's perfect. So look, I messed up our little flower, but I wanted you guys to see that gallery glass is permanent until you don't want it anymore. And then you can just pull it off of any glass surface. So with that, you'll have extra fun tonight because you know that tomorrow, if you don't like it, you can do it again. All right. So what we are going to do is we are going to use the gallery glass exactly as it is in the bottle. And we are just going to create these different shapes. So I'm going to start with white. So gallery glass, you know what, maybe I shouldn't start with white because it's white and you guys won't be able to see it. I am going to start with yellow. So the gallery glass has a really fine rider tip, which makes it easy for this technique. So I'm going to find my flower that's yellow, and that's this one. And gallery glass comes out and stays dimensional. So it's going to be hard to show that on there. Well, maybe you can see it actually, if I'm looking in the monitor. See how it's not settling and flattening out? It's staying the shape of our pattern. And see that shadow it's creating? That is showing you that it is dimensional. Gallery glass dries dimensional so it can mimic textured glass. So all I'm doing is kind of following, not following exactly. You can see my pencil right there, and just creating some really loose, basic petal shapes.
Kirsten, you're using a slightly smaller pane of glass right now, right?
You know what I am? I wanted to make sure guys were able to see it, but yes, this glass is a little bit smaller than this one, but whatever size glass you use is fine.
Yeah, we had somebody from the product team bring you that pane, and I think it's a weird size, right? It's like 7.5 by 9.5.
Yeah, 7.5 by 9.5.
Yeah.
Like that is weird. The one that Michael's has is 8 by 10, and that's what the sample is on. Michael's has a great assortment of these floating frames with 2 pieces of glass. And they've actually got, some of you might have picked, my Michael's has a white version, a black version, and a wood version. And they're just beautiful, whether you put a picture in them or a piece of art, or do something fun and creative like this. So see, I don't want to pick it up and move it around too much, I mean, it definitely will stay in place, but see the dimension that you get. And then when that dries, so gallery glass goes on opaque when it's wet, and when it dries, it becomes completely translucent and you can see right through it. Let's see if I can show you guys the difference. Oh yeah, you can totally see the difference. So see how when it's wet, it's opaque, and then when it dries, it's translucent. It's really a fabulous paint. There's so much that you can do with gallery glass. Okay, so I did my first little flower. Now I'm going to go in here and do this flower, and you can see this one, I've got white and yellow in it. So I'm going to do a few of my little petals with yellow, but I'm actually going to leave, see that little opening I left? I'm going to leave a few little openings, and I'll show you why. I'm going to leave a few petals blank. So gallery glass, when you're doing it with leading, when you're doing it like this, gallery glass can be blended together. You can mix it to create your own color. You can do so much with it, just like you would traditional acrylic paint. So this is bright white or snow white, whichever one you've got. And I am going to go in with the same little fine tip. And I'm going to first fill in that little section. And then I'm just going to really softly kind of comb back and forth, blending the two colors. So I'm going to put a little bit of white in those 3 petals. And then I'm going to do these petals just in the white with a little bit of yellow that I did not, on purpose, I did not wash off the tip of my bottle. And then I'm going to do maybe a little, almost like a stripe or a vein directly in that yellow. And I'll actually hold this up, guys. Hang on. So I'm just using the white right out of the tip and just almost placing it on top of the yellow. And the main thing you want to do is you don't want to, let's see where I can do that. I'm going to do it on this scrap piece of glass. You don't want to get on the glass and almost treat it like a marker where the gallery glass is really, really thin and you see glass through it. So you don't want to scribble like it's a marker like that to create your flower petal. Oh, that's hard to see. Oh, that was good to see. You want to outline first and then fill in, but fill in thick enough. See how it settles? None of the glass shows through. And it's dimensional. That's what you want to do. You don't want to treat it like a marker where you just outline and kind of color scribble. That's not enough paint for the look that we're doing. You want to outline and keep that kind of dimensional, and then almost flood that area with color or with paint. And you'll see it'll settle down. Sorry, I slow talk when I do a brush stroke. But see the difference. You want the thicker application, not the thin. Can you guys see that, Stephen?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. Oh, I better wipe that off. That's my second piece of glass. My demo cannot have little white flower petals on it. Okay. And now let me hold up this so you guys can see how fun it is to blend color. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, yeah. So see where just the way you apply a little bit of white kind of on top of that yellow, when that dries, it'll give you so much details and dimension in your little wildflowers. Can you guys see that? Looks like little corn kernels. But that is a really fun, unique way to blend 2 colors. So I'm going to go up here to this flower, and he's just all white, but don't forget, everyone, if you want them all to be yellow, make them all yellow. If you want them to have a little bit of pink in them, do the same techniques, but just do it in the colors that you guys like. I hope you guys can really see, though, how they stay dimensional. The petals, as close as they are together, They're not running together. You're not having to keep them separate. That's one of the great things about gallery glass. If you get a little air bubble, you could poke it with a toothpick. Sometimes just the tip of the bottle, just kind of touching on the air bubble will take that out of there. A little straight pin or a sewing pin would pop that if you get an air bubble on any of your little petals. All right, so all of my little flowers or their petals are base coated. I guess that would be the term we would use if we were doing acrylic. And so now what I want to do next is I want to do the little wildflowers. So I'm going to do the red. And all I'm going to do is the exact same technique. I'm just going to create circles. So I'm going to do the outside first. And then I'm just going to fill that with color and it'll flatten out perfectly. You can see like my pattern was a little higher, but I thought I'm going to move it a little lower. Definitely change up your pattern if you see a spot where you maybe had too many flowers on your pattern, or maybe you didn't have enough and you want one more. Definitely change it up and have fun with it. I love red and yellow together on almost anything. Red, yellow, and blue, or teal, are three of my favorite colors together. So that'll be cute when this all comes together at the end. You can see that when I scooted down a little bit, I was like, I think I want them lower. But again, I'm getting full coverage, making sure that it doesn't look like glass is coming through, but it's a solid application of paint. On this one, I'm going to do a few little red flowers. Maybe a little one right there just to connect the two. I think that might be it. So then I'm going to go back to the red. And I'm just going to simply dot. This is a great way to see all the characteristics of gallery glass too. So we're dotting wet paint on top of wet paint. And you can see it just sits on there. It doesn't muddy. It doesn't blend or bleed. Really so many great things I could say about gallery glass, but the way the colors mix together, work together, it's just a fabulous, fabulous paint.
So Kirsten, I want to address a couple comments and questions.
Okay. Okay.
We have a question. Did she clean the glass after taking it out of the frame? If yes, with what? If not, will the paint stick to the glass if there's dust or finger marks?
So the glass being new and being out of the frame is probably pretty clean. And yes, the paint will stick to it. And yes, it will be perfect. If you get something maybe at the Goodwill or it's something that you've handled a bunch, we always say to just wash it with, Windex and a soft cloth and let that dry completely.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was going to say. And then the other question, do we have to wait for an area to dry before painting right next to it?
So with gallery glass, if you're going to touch the two colors and you don't want them to overlap at all, I guess you would, but everything that we're doing today, we're going to do right now at the same time. And you can see the colors, like that red is right next to the yellow. They're both as wet as they could be, and it's okay. So you can definitely get super close to your next color with gallery glass and nothing bad will happen. In fact, you can even touch wet on top of wet, like the white and the red, and you can see whether they were on top of each other or next to each other. they're not going to muddy up or blend or mess up your composition. Did that help at all?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Awesome. Okay, guys. So now I'm going to get the Kelly green. And I know it feels like we're going in a little bit of a weird order. Usually, I guess maybe you would paint your vase first, or you would paint your background first. We're doing it in a different order. One, because it's fused glass. Two, because the flowers are more important than the background. So that's kind of the reason that we're jumping around different than you would with traditional acrylic. So we've placed our flowers, we've placed our little wildflowers. Now we're going to place some of our leaves. You can see there's no stems. There's no stems in our vase on this first layer of glass. So don't think that we're not adding it, because you can see that it's here, but we're only going to add the elements that are on this sample. So all I'm going to do is my leaves. So right here, I know I'm going to add a leaf. And here again, I'm referencing my pattern, but you can see I put that petal right over my leaf. So I lowered my leaf down just enough so that it doesn't cover that petal. I'm going to add a big leaf there. I'm going to add a big leaf over here on the left. And then I want you guys to just be really creative and know that if you had a bushel of flowers, there's going to be green in a lot of different areas, but it doesn't have to be exact. This is very abstract and very fun. So I'm going to do the large leaves that we drew on our pattern. I'm going to make sure those are in there. And then I'm going to just kind of mimic placement of a green leaf or a green area within my bouquet. So I'm going to add a little bit of green in here, even though I didn't draw a leaf specifically. I am going to go in and do just a straight line where I know my stems were, but not my stems going into my vase. This stem that's on the outside of my vase, I'm going to connect to that leaf and stop at the top of my vase. Same with these little red flowers. I know they have to grow on something, so I'm going to connect them with a little green line, but I'm not going to be exact. I'm going to just let it kind of stop, knowing that it mimics that it's going into the vase, but I don't need to create a stem that goes all the way through. I'm going to add a few green leaves to my wildflowers. And then I'm just going to kind of almost scribble or accent. So there's more green around that floral area. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I know there's got to be a stem. So I'm going to create that. I'm going to do a little bit of green coming out of this flower, but I'm never going into my vase. I'm going to do a few little leaves on this bushel of red flowers. But then I'm going to just kind of scribble a little bit of green where I think it's missing. See how it's all kind of coming together? And then if you guys want, we can either do all of this. If you want to do all of this first piece of glass, leave it there. If you want to do your second piece of glass, remove your first one and place your second one on your pattern. And your second one is not very cute. But when the two are together, it creates so much dimension. And so all I'm going to do on my second one is I'm going to do my stems. And even though it's just a line, I'm still applying a pretty thick coat by just allowing that paint to drop onto the surface, almost if you were using dimensional paint. These do not have to be perfect. They don't need to follow your pattern. Your pattern was definitely there for reference, but you just want to apply a little assortment of stems so that you can tell it's going into your clear glass. And then you can scoot that off to the side. We'll come back to that one for our vase and everything else. But first, I want to finish our top layer of glass. All right, so I'm placing that back.
Can you
Oh.
bring that first pane close up to the camera, the one that you're working on?
This one or this one?
The one on the left. On the left.
Yep. I can pick it up. They're hard to pick up.
Somebody says that their petals are blending together. What do you suggest that they do?
So is it kind of like that one right there? Like, see how those two yellow ones are touching?
Maybe.
Which, if that's the case, it's really okay. See how they're touching, but it still looks like the elements of the petal. And let me show you guys on this one that's totally dry. So on this one, you can see all four of these, actually all that whole side, kind of touched a little bit. But when it dries, you still get that great dimension. And I really think it's okay. If they're all blending into, you know, a giant circle, you are using way too much paint, and you could wipe off that area, but I would not go in and separate that if they're just touching a little bit. Because that's one of the things with fused glass, stained glass. The glass kind of has a mind of its own, and those elements do not mess up your project at all. All righty. Did that answer it at all? Kind of.
So.
Okay. So now I'm getting amber. And don't forget, they dry, or they come out opaque, but they dry translucent. So the colors are a really, really, really good representation. But just know when they dry, they're always a little bit different because they dry with the light coming through them. So I'm going to use the amber to create all of the different centers of my large daisies. And you can be creative. You can do maybe a large circle, which is what I did on this one and this one. I'm going to do just a bunch of little dots. If you like that look, whatever look you like. Maybe on this one, I'm going to do kind of a little circle, like a half circle. And then I'm going to do dots on the rest of it, just because I love the look of the dotted center. On this little white one, I'm going to do a circle, and not a perfect circle. I'm kind of following the open area where the petals have met, and then a few little dots. So remember, fused glass, abstract, super fun. There's no right or wrong center to any of your flowers. Okay, then I'm going to go in, actually, I'm going to take the white, and I am going to add just a few more dots. See these little dots that are just kind of random to fill in the areas around my little red flowers. If you like that look, add a few. If not, keep it exactly as it is. But I love the texture of adding a few more little dots to the wildflowers. Okay, let me hold that up so you guys can see it. I love it when it's up close. I think it's easier for you guys to see. But if you like those 3D elements of just those little white dots accenting your wildflowers, but see my centers, how they're each different. Do whatever look you like. If you want to fill it in completely in that amber color, go for it. That'll be beautiful too. Okay, so now we are going to add some elements of the background, which is the blue. And what I say with this is you're really just, this is where you're being the most abstract, if that is a good description. You are literally just scribbling with the tip in between areas. You're not base coating and filling that in completely. You're just adding a touch of blue in a very abstract way to fill in large areas. You don't want to touch the blue exactly to that green and white area and fill that in, because that will get, it is a little too close for the look that we want. You want to leave, let's see if I can hold this up. You want to leave open spaces of glass where the blue is mimicking the sky or mimicking the background, but you're not completely eliminating the glass. Does that make sense? It's hard to see because it's transparent.
Hey, Kirsten, backtracking just a little bit. If we didn't have amber, what color should we use?
Oh gosh, you could use orange. You could use yellow on your white flowers and white on your yellow flowers. You could use green. If you have other gallery glass colors, there's a really pretty gray, there's a really pretty brown. But if you are using our color palette, I would almost switch. I would use white on the yellow flowers and yellow on the white flowers. Okay, so I've got my aqua, the lighter of my two blues, and using that writer tip and just scribbling, and definitely scribble because you don't want perfect lines. I want some blue right there. I want a little bit of blue right there. Maybe a little bit here, but not a ton, because again, I don't want to muddy up and blend everything together with blue. I just want to create that soft element of sky or light coming through my flower bouquet. And I don't want solid shapes. I don't want a circle of blue or a rectangle of blue. I want it to be really abstract and really organic. So that's why I'm just kind of scribbling. I want it over here where these areas kind of come together. Maybe a little bit on the side of my vase. But really abstract. Abstract is the key. Maybe a little bit more up here, but I don't want to completely fill in that area. Let me hold this up so you guys can see that it's literally scribbling. But you want that irregular edge because that's what will give it a really nice artistic feel. Okay, now the clear, which the clear is going to be hard to see because it's going to be white on white. I want you guys, let's see if you guys can see this. So clear is exactly that when it dries. It's completely clear. So creating a texture is what you always want to do with the clear. So to create a texture, we're not going to flood it solid like we did our petals. We are going to do actually what I said not to do, which was scribble. Remember what I said about the petals is you wanted to fill it in with the clear. Let's see if I can show you guys. You want to scribble and you want to have those open areas where glass shows through. Some thick areas, some thin, some glass showing through in a really irregular pattern, because when that dries clear, it looks like really thick, amazing, almost like dimensional blown glass. So when you're working with clear, always remember you do want to create some texture, because when it dries clear, the texture is what gives you the character. Okay, so with that said, here's my base. I am going to outline it first, just so I kind of, got my mind to know where I'm going to paint. And then I'm going to scribble. And I'm going to scribble just like I showed you guys, where some of the glass still shows. Some of the paint is a little bit thicker, like that line is thicker, but have an irregular application of paint. So when that dries, I get all that beautiful texture, like a beveled glass vase for all your little flowers to sit in. And then I am going to go to the top of the vase. And I'm outlining, so I'm not touching the green or touching the yellow, but I want to also scribble. Let's see if I can hold that up. Yep. So see all that texture and all that open space. When that dries clear, that's what will give you that beautiful texture in your vase. And then I'm going to take the white. So the white is what we used on our petals. It's going to look the same coming out of the bottle, which is going to be a little bit tricky. But all I'm going to do is outline, and not exactly, but I'm going to kind of add some white to the top of the vase. And I'm just going to scribble a little white on just one side of the vase. And what that will do is when it dries, it'll almost give your vase like a little highlight where the sun is reflecting on it. Can you see that? All right. And then I'm going to take our darker blue, which is our turquoise. Same writer tip that we're using for everything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create not all of the bottom or all of the ground or tabletop, but just a few little almost highlights or accents. We're going to be using the same color for the top and the bottom piece of glass, but because there's that space in between, you'll just get so much variety when the light comes through it.
So,
all right.
And I have a good question for you.
All right, I'm ready.
Can you use a paintbrush to smear the background to make it more transparent, like the sandpaper?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You absolutely can. All right, guys. So that's piece one, which is really beautiful on its own. If that dried and you put that back in your frame, that is going to be an absolutely beautiful piece of art. That's fused glass that looks see-through. Put that in your kitchen window and all of the light, the sunlight comes through that. That will be absolutely beautiful. The second layer just gives us a little bit of variety and a little bit of dimension. So I want to show you guys kind of what happens when or what we're creating when we do the second layer. So this is our first layer, done and beautiful, could stand on its own. But if we do, or when we do our second layer, you can see it just gives, now I've got those touching, but in the frame, they're separated by at least a ½ inch. That gives it just some dimension. Our vase is more blue, whether it represents water. We're going to do more background for our tabletop. So it just gives a little more variety. Okay. So I'm going to bring in that second piece of glass. And what I've placed is just my stems. And if maybe you skip that step and you haven't added your stems yet, place your second piece of glass on your pattern and just do a few random stems, because no matter where you place them, if they're not exact, if you changed up your pattern, it's going to work, because again, it's layered, it's abstract. When it dries, you're going to know that all of those stems work together with your bouquet of flowers. Okay, so there's my stems. I'm going to take the lighter blue, which is aqua, and I am going to outline my vase just like I did with the clear. And then I am going to color in a little bit of texture, but more paint than we did with the clear, because I want my vase to read this pretty aqua color and not just water. So I'm adding blue to all the open elements, but not allowing the paint to blend together completely, because I like that really open, airy feel by having the glass kind of peeking through. And then I am going to, just like we did on this one. So on this one, we added blue between our flowers. I am going to add a little bit of blue, but not really caring where it is, because again, once the glass is layered and it's going to dry translucent, it's just going to be a beautiful effect of layered, almost like layered sky. So I know I'm going to do a little bit back here, maybe a little bit in the middle where the two will kind of layer on top of each other. A little up here, not too thick, and with really random edges. You don't want circles or patterns or defined shapes. Maybe a little down here. Just to complement, because see when I set this one that's got some blue, it's see-through. Wherever I put it, it's not working. Hang on, guys. So see, there's some blue on this one, but then when I layer it over this one that's blue, it just adds to the background. It can't be in a wrong spot. Does that make sense? And then I am going to do the table, and I'm going to do that in almost a solid application, but I'm not going to bump up to my vase exactly. Because again, the look of fused glass or mosaic and then fusing glass, there's lots of elements of clear glass, and that's what our surface is allowing us to create by leaving those open areas. So even though I added, remember we added that little bit of blue on our table. So we're adding the same color thinking, well, we don't need it on both spots, but once it's dry and you layer it with a 1/2 inch in between it, it's hard to see right here, but it just gives you some dimension. The way that light comes through it is different. You'll really be able to see a lot of details in that once it's dry and framed. So you guys, that is all of the painting. How's it going, Stephen? Do we have any questions?
I think we're good.
That's awesome. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to put glass 1 and glass 2 right there next to each other. And the neat thing, it's sometimes neat, and to be honest, sometimes it's not so neat. But the really fun thing about gallery glass is what you see in the morning when this stuff dries is so different than the way it is wet. It's magical. It's transforming. We did a privacy window, like literally the front door, the side lights of a house for a photo shoot that we did. And it's opaque, and it's, you're like, oh, I think I like the colors. When it dries, and it dries transparent, and the sunlight comes through that, but you still have those vibrant colors, it's magical to see the transformation between when it's wet and when it's dry. So when you guys see your project in the morning, you're going to be hopefully very excited, because the way the paint dries is just magical. So you guys, we always recommend your paint drying overnight. Do a favor for me, because I know in Atlanta tonight, the weather is absolutely crazy. It is what, Stephen? 82 degrees.
Yeah, it's a little hotter today.
It's hot. It's not fall. We like it colder, but it was real foggy yesterday, and it's humid. Make sure, even though we say overnight, make sure that your gallery glass project tomorrow, when you put it back into the frame, is completely dry. If you see anything that still looks opaque, it still needs to dry a little bit. And then you're just carefully, you're going to slide your first piece into the top slot. And then you're going to take your second piece and you're going to slide that. Oops, if I did it right, which I didn't, I did it crooked. Okay, top slot. That should be the easy part, right? And then the bottom slot, you're going to slide those in, and you guys are going to see a piece of art that is so unique. It's so abstract. And go back and look on the classroom photo. You can see we photographed it in a window, because again, I hate that it's hard to see on our monitors. But when the light shines through that, it looks like traditional stained glass. And it's such a beautiful way to use the gallery glass paint. So let it dry. Trust that it is totally dry. Reassemble your project, and I hope you guys absolutely love it. So anyone have any questions, Stephen, real quick before we finish up?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Awesome. Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed trying something a little bit different. We always love to just overwhelm you with techniques and new products and things that we're super excited about. So I hope that we did that with Gallery Glass. So thanks for joining us. Hashtag, we love to see your projects. We love to see all of them. So hashtag Plaid Crafts and make it with Michaels, because we'd love to see what you guys create. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.